Chris Lynch News. Book your vehicle service online at airparkcanterbury.co.nz.
Well, the local body elections are now fast approaching. The campaigning has begun. Tracy, I'll start with you first. In your view, is Phil Major likely to retain the mayoralty, or does Sarah Templeton present a serious challenge? What do you think?
Gosh, who knows? That's what I love about local body elections. It's all go, isn't it? That's the beauty of democracy. And I just think it's amazing when people put themselves forward, gives people choice, and, whatever happens, happens. They're both great candidates.
Yeah, I think they're both great candidates and they've got their own passions, and I think it's great. I think it's a real contest. Vanessa, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It'll be interesting to see who comes out on top, and happy to work with either of them. I think they're both good people, and just really good for democracy, as Tracy says, that we've got good choices.
They're not the only two names in the hat, though, Chris.
Who else has come forward? Tracy, is this breaking news? You're putting yourself forward?
No. But there's bound to be some others. But you're right; those are the two leading candidates that people have got to choose between.
Usually John Minto puts his hand up, but he hasn't done that for, I think he didn't do so last election either. Got a soft spot for John.
I'd be surprised if Tubby didn't give it another crack.
Yes, that's true. And there's also a few others that come out of the woodworks, as they often do. Speaking of coming out of the woodworks, there are still other candidates across council boards that have put their hand up. Anybody that's making you think, let's see more of them, Tracy? What about some of them from People's Choice? Anybody that you're thinking that we need to watch because they're outstanding? Go for it. I'll give you a free hit.
Oh, they're all outstanding, Chris. They're all outstanding. But hey, look, we've got the first person that comes to mind is Nathaniel Hertz-Jardine in Heathcote. He's an outstanding candidate. He's a community advocate. He has been involved in loads and loads of things. He's out there working his butt off, actually, door knocking, and he's joined by Jack Mould in that ward. So I think watch out for Nathaniel. He's a star.
Vanessa, anybody that's making you think, yep, they're quite good? I'm glad they're standing.
Hey, look, they're all fantastic, and as you know, we don't particularly align with any local body candidates, and so I'm looking forward to seeing who comes through. We're happy to work with anyone.
Isn't Independent Citizens, aren't they national aligned, or are they just sort of more right wing?
They're sort of more centre right, but not necessarily in direct alignment.
Okay. Earlier this week, Phil Major rejected suggestions, Tracy, that he was open to partial sales of Littleton Port, calling those claims dangerous and irresponsible. I know you attended a meeting last night in Littleton about that very issue. First of all, what do you think? Has he managed to put this thing to bed, or are there still genuine concerns in the community after you went to that meeting last night?
There's definitely genuine concerns in the community. And first of all, he said he didn't put the concerns to bed at all, I don't think. He's flip-flopped on this on several occasions. He said that he had no plans to, but, I've got no plans to do several things that I might end up doing later on today. But that's not as a strong as commitment as I would like to see. There should be no sell down, no leasing, no loss of control. And I would like some firm commitments from anybody that wants to put their hand up in this local body election.
Didn't he put it to bed by suggesting that it's an emphatic no and this is just all mud raking?
No, he said it's emphatic no to the fact that he also went on about the fact that he had no plans to sell the port and pivoted to about how important it was to maintain control. So I think that leaves the door open for partial sales. And we know that it was December 2023, which is not that long ago, that the last vote was only lost by one vote, 8-7 on council. So I think it's entirely appropriate that the public be vigilant about it. Look, I accept Phil at his word, but I will investigate that word, and I will look very carefully at that word to make sure it's just not carefully crafted and isn't giving him some wriggle room. I make no apologies for that.
Vanessa, your thoughts on this?
Look, I think the port issue is one of those that's quite fraught and easily manipulated for political gain. And I think that's what the Labour Party are doing. And I think that all councils should be open to looking at how they use their assets, not necessarily selling them, but they should be open to being very considerate about how they use their assets.
Okay.
And it's that type of language that the people of Littleton in particular at the meeting last night are really wary of. We don't want to see options open and crafty ways of using assets differently. This is strategic asset, and it's about infrastructure, and it's about jobs, it's about people, and it's about the economy. It's not just simply an asset used differently. It's not a balance sheet.
Vanessa, that a fair comment?
No, I don't think it is. I think that Labor has been pretty poor at managing money generally and wouldn't know how an asset should be used.
Okay.
Sounds like you're keen to sell the port, Vanessa, so we'll disagree on that one.
See, that's just so typical of you.
Okay, that's a note. Right, rates now, the taxpayers union, I think even the government, I think it was Vanessa, wasn't not Vanessa, what's her name? Finance Minister, Nicola Willis rather, have both come out and said they support a cap on rate increases. Vanessa, to you on this one first, do you believe a move would actually compromise essential services, or is this concern overstated?
Well, I think that concern is overstated because we've got to look at the fact that these rates have been extremely high increases without necessarily taking the look at the bottom line and working out where all these expenses are coming from. It's not the best practice to just go ahead and heap costs onto ratepayers. I think it is a good idea to go through the process of checking that, and the government has committed to a process of looking at how we can help councils out with their expenses at the same time as ensuring that rates stay at a reasonable level.
Well, the government wouldn't they'd have to, because there's no other way. Because if we're putting more costs on ratepayers when it comes to infrastructure and water services, and then telling us we can't increase the rates to maintain that, would have no choice but for the government to intervene and perhaps relax the rules around, say, GST, for example. What do you think, Tracy?
Look, I think you're correct. When the government is heaping more and more responsibilities onto city councils, and of course, councils only have one way to collect revenue, and that is via rates. I think every elected official is incredibly vigilant about making sure that rates don't increase, and they do go through line by line. And we should expect that any organisation is looking at, potentially wasteful spending. But there's only so many libraries and swimming pools you can close down or limit the hours on to reduce costs. So I think the concept of an artificial rates cap is something that might sound good on the surface, but the unintended consequences are probably not what the community wants to pay for.
What about the fact that the council spends millions and millions of dollars every year on consultants? Couldn't we cut some of those, I wonder? Either of you want to talk about that? I know there was a story in the paper recently, I think, suggesting there was, I can't think of the figure, but it was certainly eye-watering amounts of money being spent on external consultants, probably because the council doesn't want to take responsibility when things go wrong. Vanessa, am I wrong?
Look, I did see the detail of that, to be honest with you, Chris, but that is a general thing that happens at both local and central government. The National's been careful to go through and stop that at central government and not stop it completely, but reduce it significantly.
Yeah. Former Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern looks like she may now front up publicly before this Royal Commission of Inquiry into the government's handling of the pandemic response. Tracy, should she and will she?
Well, my understanding is that she said that she will participate in what is, remembering, this is phase 2. So this is the sort of add-on part to the inquiry. And I certainly know just as much as you do, and that's looking at the media, and it seems to be that she's going to participate in that. And why wouldn't she? There's, we had a fantastic response to the pandemic, and she's going to be the first person to to learn lessons and to provide what is a pretty unique perspective to something that we can learn from in the future.
Vanessa, your thoughts when you heard that the Prime Minister was considering or should? Do you think she should front this Royal Commission of Inquiry?
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that she is. I think that for many people, she was quite a divisive figure during the pandemic. Initially, many people felt reassured, but I think that as things went on, she became quite a figure of authoritarianism rather than kindness.
Then a few comment, Tracy?
I think that's an unusual comment. I think that's a bit harsh. I'm not sure that the vast majority of people would agree with that, but there's always going to be. I mean, there was hurt and there was harm that people experienced the longer the pandemic went on. But and we do have to acknowledge that. But I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater in terms of the fact that New Zealand had one of the best responses in the world. You know, we weren't lining up dead bodies in the street, and our health system didn't collapse. Our economy bounced back pretty quickly because of the measures that were taken and because of the reassurance that Jacinda in particular was able to afford people. So we need to keep it in perspective.
Oh, and that's an interesting point you make, Vanessa. Are we keeping things in perspective? Or do we have the benefit of hindsight now, which allows us to show more context?
I think that's the inevitable thing that happens, is that hindsight allows you the ability to look at things in a different light, and we should all understand that that's what we're doing. I will never forget the terror of being a business GP owner in the initial stages of the pandemic and what that might have meant for my team and for my patients. And I was grateful for the initial lockdowns, and I will always be thankful that we had a good response. However, I don't think that the overall response should be taken as being fantastic just because of the initial response.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. This taxpayers poll shows New Zealand first ahead of ACT. I think this probably is the first time ever, isn't it? Ahead of the Green Party and Te Pāti Māori, making it the third most popular party at the moment. Of course, it's just one poll. What do you make of this shift in support, Vanessa? Do you think it's possibly because Winston Peters has kind of invoked this war on woke, and actually there's something to be said for that?
Yeah.
Look, polls go up and polls go down, and don't particularly take too much notice of it in general as a general statement. I would say though that
every politician does. That's the first thing you do. Come on.
Winston's been great as the Foreign Affairs Minister, and I think that maybe his popularity is on the rise.
That was a very, very conservative view. Tracy, what do you think? I mean, let's be honest. I think Vanessa makes a good point. I mean, the amount of press releases I get, and the fact that he's in one place, Japan, one day, and Namibia the next. I mean, that's probably not quite true, but you know what I'm saying. He does seem to be everywhere, and I get tired just having one meeting a day. I mean, the man is his heart is made of steel. You know what I'm saying?
Well, look, he's a phenomenon, really. He's 80 years old and he's still going strong, and he's got that wealth of experience, I think, in particular in that foreign affairs space, although I would like us to be reasserting our independent foreign policy a little bit more strongly. But, and Vanessa's also right, polls go up and down. There's all sorts of factors at play. It's trends that we're sort of interested in the long run, but this one is what it is.
Yeah, I think it's a small snapshot, really. And yeah, you're right. Trends. I don't know what the trends are. They do seem to be. In fact, I don't think the last year there has been any trend, has there? I mean, it seems to be like 1 month National's up, and the next month the Green or coalition of Labour's up, and I don't think there is a trend, is there? Do any of you know what? Do you see a trend at all? I mean, I personally don't. Either of you?
You see the same polls we see, but taking New Zealand First, for instance, New Zealand First has got to be more than just Winston Peters at the end of the day, and I'm not sure that they are. So let's see how that plays out in the long term.
Yeah. Well, there's Shane Jones. He seems to be doing okay with his comments in general. Finally, let's just briefly discuss this mad idea. I think it's mad, and I don't know. I just think it's off, really. Vanessa, should we bring back the mower, or do you have ethical concerns that perhaps outweigh the scientific curiosity? What do you think? I think it's odd. Well,
of course, they wouldn't be government priority, and it's it would, as you say, have lots of ethical concerns. Look, I just watched the new Jurassic Park movie the other day. These are the kind of things that start to scare people out there, and I think, look, it's an interesting idea, and I think that's all it is at the moment.
Yeah, certainly got the media excited. Tracy, you want to bring back the mower?
Oh, look, of all the things you might want to bring back, I'm not sure the mower's top of my list, but there's some pretty impressive, I suppose, science behind it. So I don't think it's as quite as grandiose as just magicking up a mower before our eyes. But
here we are next year. The next year there'll be a live camera, located at some small cage, and we'll be able to see it, hatching in real time. And, it's the start of things to come. Anyway, ladies, have a lovely weekend. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
You too.